We waste a ton of energy every single day. But what if I told you some of that waste comes from something you do constantly without even thinking about it? Walking. Yeah, walking. Every single step you take, you're generating kinetic energy. So what if we could actually capture it? Let's dive in. Just imagine for a second a world where every step you take on your way to work, every frantic rush through a crowded train station, actually helps to light up the signs and power the world around you. Sounds a little bit like science fiction, doesn't it? Well, guess what? It's not science fiction at all. This technology is already being tested and even used in some of the busiest places on the entire planet. So, where can you actually see this in action? And the places this is popping up, they're pretty wild. Get this, in Tokyo's Shibuya Station, where a staggering 2.4 million people pass through every day, they're using these special mats to harness all that foot traffic. And it's not just about commuting. A nightclub in London is literally powering its lights with the energy from people on the dance floor. So from massive transit hubs to dance clubs, the idea is exactly the same. Let's capture the power of people in motion. Okay, so how on earth do you actually turn a simple footstep into electricity? It's not magic, it's all about materials science. And the basic idea has been around for over 100 years. It all comes down to a really fascinating property that certain crystals have. It all comes down to this really cool concept called piezoelectricity. And the name itself gives you a huge clue. It comes from the Greek word piezo, which literally means to press or to squeeze. When you apply mechanical stress, like, the pressure from a footstep, to these special materials, they generate an electric charge. It's a direct, one-to-one conversion of mechanical energy right into electrical energy. Let's get microscopic for a second. Inside this material, you have this perfectly balanced, perfectly ordered crystal structure. But when you press down on it, you literally bend that structure out of shape. And that simple act physically separates the positive and negative charges inside, which creates a voltage. That's it. That simple squeeze is what creates the spark. And believe it or not, this idea has been around for a long, long time. It was first discovered way back in 1880 by the famous Curie brothers. For a while, it was just a laboratory curiosity. Then, fast forward to World War I, and it found its first huge application, sonar, for detecting submarines. Later on, scientists developed really powerful synthetic materials, and that opened up a whole new world of possibilities. Which, of course, brings us to today, where we're finding brand new ways to put this spark to use. Okay, so creating that little spark of voltage is one thing, but that's just step one, right? To make it actually useful, you have to capture it, you have to convert it, and you have to store that tiny little burst of energy. And this is where the engineering gets really clever. So, how do we wrangle that energy? First, each step gives you this tiny kind of choppy pulse of AC, or alternating current. But our phones, our lights, they all need a steady DC, or direct current. So the circuit's first job is to convert that choppy AC into a smooth flowing DC. Then it stabilizes that power to make it a reliable voltage. And finally, that little bit of energy gets stored in a capacitor or a small battery, ready to power something like an LED light. Now, obviously, the real-world setup is a little more complicated than that simple four-step process we just walked through. A full system has multiple sensors, a microcontroller, a tiny little brain to manage the flow of energy, and all the storage units. The whole thing is designed to efficiently handle these really small, rapid bursts of power coming from thousands of footsteps. All right, now that we've got the how down, let's get to the really fun part, the what for. Because this goes way beyond just putting some tiles in a train station. And seriously, the possibilities here are pretty much endless. Think about powering the lights and digital signs in airports and malls. On a university campus, this could power Wi-Fi hotspots in the hallways. At a packed stadium, the roar of the crowd and their footsteps could literally help power the scoreboards. But it's not just about these huge installations. Imagine a TV remote that never needs batteries because you generate the power just by clicking the buttons. It could even provide crucial power in off-grid places, like a remote military camp or a disaster relief shelter. I love this quote from Haimizu Kohei, who's a real pioneer in this space. He says, "The energy you need is created and used right on the spot." And that really gets to the heart of it. This is decentralized power. You don't need giant transmission lines. The energy is made exactly where it's needed, right when it's needed. So, you might be thinking, this sounds amazing. Why aren't all of our sidewalks power plants by now? Well, that's a great question. And like with any cool new tech, it's time for a little reality check. There are some pretty big hurdles to get over. Okay, probably the single biggest hurdle is how much power are we actually talking about? Let's be real and look at the numbers. One sensor gets you about 25 milliwatts. 10 sensors gets you up to 180 milliwatts. Now, to put that in perspective, a single LED light bulb needs thousands of milliwatts. So what this tells us is that this technology is amazing for low power stuff, but it's not going to power entire city blocks. You need a massive scale and constant, heavy traffic to get meaningful energy. Then you've got the material dilemma. It's a classic engineering trade-off, really. On the one hand, you have ceramic materials. They're great at generating electricity, but they're brittle, so they can crack under constant pressure. Plus, some of them contain lead, which is a big environmental no-no. On the other hand, you have polymer materials. They're way more flexible and durable, but they produce a lot less power. The holy grail is finding a material that gives you the best of both worlds. So, to wrap up the challenges, you're looking at a few big ones. First, these materials and the installation can be really expensive. Second, as we saw, the low energy output is a major factor. Third, durability is a huge question mark. Can these things really withstand millions of footsteps year after year? And finally, just figuring out how to efficiently store these tiny random bursts of energy is a serious engineering puzzle. Solving these is the key to everything. But listen, despite all those hurdles, the future for piezoelectric energy harvesting is genuinely exciting. Researchers are already working on next-generation solutions that could make this technology a cornerstone of the cities we live in. And the next wave of this stuff? It's already being cooked up in labs. We're talking about smart floors that don't just generate power, they also monitor how people move through a space, giving us valuable data for designing better cities. People are also looking at hybrid systems that combine footsteps with solar panels to create a much more reliable power source. And best of all, scientists are developing new nanogenerators that are way more efficient, flexible, and totally lead-free. At the end of the day, this isn't really about replacing our huge power grids. It's about adding to our energy sources and building smarter, more interactive cities. It's a future where the city itself becomes this living, breathing system, and our own daily movements become part of a bigger, more sustainable cycle. It really is an incredible thing to think about, isn't it? And while we're not quite there yet, the technology is real, and the potential is absolutely undeniable. It leaves us with this one really inspiring question to think about. In the future, will every single step we take actually help power the world?